Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to focus on network address translation. So network address translation, okay, if I'm answering the what is network address translation, it's just a mapping between one IP and another IP. So the IP header information gets changed as information goes across the internet. So why do we do it? Is because like for the purpose of today, we're talking about IP version 4 range, which is an example of IP version 4 is the one we see here on the screen, like 25.0.2.2 is an IP version 4, okay, or the 192.168.10.1 or .2.3. Those are private IP addresses in the IP version 4 range. Let's assume that this PC wanted to have access to a web server, okay, on the internet. So since the PC is using a private IP address, that IP cannot be routed on the internet, okay. So because of that, the router here, okay, this router is going to be able to do the translation. It's going to do the NATing. It's going to do the mapping between this IP and that other IP, okay, which means on the internet, this is the IP that's going to be known, okay, this is the IP that's going to be known to the web server, okay. So and that goes in both directions. So the traffic is coming from the web server into our network. Our network is not going to know about this IP, it's only going to know about the translated IP on our internet facing router, okay. So there are many types of there are three main types of network address translation. We have the one-to-one, okay, dynamic static NAT translation, and then we also have the dynamic, okay, which is one-to-many, okay, and we also have the port address translation, okay. So for today we're going to talk only about the static NAT, which means one IP gets mapped to another IP, okay, on the internet. For the purpose of this video, I prepared this diagram. So basically we have two sites. We have site 1, okay, which is, let's say, our main office, and site 2, okay. So site 1 PC has access to the internet, but they want to have access to the web server, okay, and the web server is using a private IP in its own LAN, it's in its own local area network. And so for that to happen, this router on site 2 has to do network address translation so that this IP of the web server is known to the internet by the IP 21.21.21.2, okay. So that way this the user 1 on site 1 will be able to have access to this web server, okay, knowing only this public IP of router on site 2, okay. Okay, right now let's test the configuration. We're going to do the configuration and then test the operation and to see exactly how it works. So in the meantime, let me just double check with you that this user 1 has access to the internet, but they don't have access to the web server, okay. So I'm just going to go into user 1, okay, user 1 PC, and go to command prompt. I'm going to try to ping the internet facing IP of router 2, which is 31.21.21.2, okay. That's responding. Now I'm going to try to reach to this web server, okay. I'm going to try to see if there's nothing on this router for me to reach the web server, okay. So as I said, it's a one-to-one mapping, which means this web server IP is known to the outside by this public IP. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to go to the browser and just put in the IP address of the router. So the IP address of the router is 21.21.21.2, okay. So we say servers reset connection, which means that we don't yet know how to get to this web server. So we have to apply NATing on this router for that to happen, okay. So let's do that right now. on the on this other side too, there's already connectivity from all the PCs and servers to the router, okay? But those routers, those PCs cannot go to the internet. Let's just double check that. Okay, let's go to the web server, which is our main concern now, and we'll try to ping the, let's see if we can ping the gateway, which is the IP address of the router, internet facing, the LAN facing side of the router. It's going to ping 172.20.16 20.1, which is the gateway. Okay, the gateway IP of this web server is .1. Okay, we can double check that. If we come here, so this is the gateway IP. Okay, we're going to try to reach that, and that's the LAN facing side of this router. .1. Okay, so we can reach that gateway, and we cannot go to the internet. Okay, we should not be able to go to the internet from this web server. So if I do ping, if I ping, let's say the ISP router, okay, if I ping the ISP router, which is 21.21.21.1, that ping should fail. Okay, it's failing. So we're going to go now to the router, this router on site 2, to configure NATing, so that this server should be able to have access to the internet. Okay, so we're going in there, enable, we'll show IP interface brief. Okay, so as you can see, this is the IP we just pinged from the web server. So this IP is configured, is up. This other IP is also configured, is up. Okay, and that's the internet facing IP of router. So we have to define on this router how the server should get to the internet. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is to define the IP NAT outside, which is the internet facing IP of internet facing IP of router is the 21.21.21.2. so we're going to call that one IP NAT outside. So go configure terminal interface 0.0.0. We're going to call that IP NAT outside. Okay, and then the fastness 01 is going to be IP NAT inside. IP NAT inside. Okay, so now we've defined the inside and the outside interfaces of this router. What's next is to tell the router how these other servers that are on the inside are going to go to the internet. Okay, we're going to tell the router if they want to go out internet, they can only do that through serial 00. Okay, for that we define a static route. So say IP route okay, so if they want to go out to anywhere on the internet, they can only go out through serial 00. That's what that says. Okay, so that's done. Now the next thing is we're going to start defining configuring our real NAT. Okay, we started here already. We defined the interfaces, what interface is on the outside, what interface is on the inside. Now we're going to do the one-to-one NATing. Okay, for that we're just going to say IP NAT inside source static, IP NAT inside source static. Okay, 172.16.20.2 21.21.21.2. Okay, enter. Okay, what that means is that we're just mapping this IP to that other IP. Okay, so any other thing that comes, like any other IP on this subnet, cannot go on internet. Only this one has access to the internet. That's what this statement means here. Okay, so it's a static mapping. It's not very efficient, but it does the job. Okay, so let's go out of there and save the configuration. Let's save the configuration. Now let's test it. So to test it, so we're going to just first of all make sure that the configuration we did here permits this web server to go to internet. Okay, so we're going to go in there. I'm going to try to ping. We're going to try to do the same ping we did earlier. Okay, we ping the ISP, which is 21.21.21.1. Okay, that ping is working. And in the same way, we should be able to ping the other side. Okay, that's the site 1 internet facing IP address, which is 12.12.12.2. okay, so we should be able to ping that one as well, because as I said, all public IP addresses are routed on the internet. So 12.12.12.2 is a public IP address, should be well routed, so we should be able to ping it. Okay, that ping is responding, but we should not be able to ping from the web server any LAN IP address, okay, which is 192.168.10.2. okay, we should not be able to ping that one. Let's try that. 192.168.10.2. that ping should fail, unreachable. That's okay. Now our real test is to make sure that this user now has access to this web server, because this web server is available on the internet. Previously it was not available, but now it's available. So let's try to see if this user can now have access to the web server. Again, we're going to ping from this user IP to the public IP of the router on site 2. Okay, not the LAN side, because it doesn't work that way. So I'm going to ping again, do a ping, and also do browse that IP. Okay, so I'm going to do two things. So I'll do ping first. So it's going to ping 21.21.21.2. okay, ping is responding. It responded before, responding now. So nothing has changed so far. What is going to change is if we try to browse. Okay, we're going to try to browse on this public IP. Okay, if we browse on this public IP, we should be able to open our web page. Okay, so let's go to browser. So if I put the IP address 21.21.21.2, and remember before I did the same thing and I had an error. Now I'm going to hit enter and let's see what we get. Okay, so right now we see this page here, and the reason we see that page is because if you go in here to the web server, you go to services, you go to HTTP, you see HTTP is enabled. Okay, HTTP and HTTPS, also web server is enabled here. That's why we're able to reach it from user 1. Okay, so our NATing is working, but how do we know it's working? How do we know the operation? We can go into this router. Okay, go into this router on site 2 and do show IP NAT translate. Let's go to show IP NAT translations. Okay, so I'm going to expand it. So what's changed? You can see that we see some terminologies that we didn't know before, like inside global, inside local, outside global. Okay, so let's focus first on the inside. Okay, so we have inside local. Inside local is the real source of our web server. Okay, that's the traffic is coming from there. Okay, the resource of our web server, and inside global is the public IP of our web server. So if you see here, the port is the same. Okay, port 80 on the inside and on the outside. What only changed was the IP address. Okay, the IP address changed, which is a one-to-one mapping, as we said before. Now we also have the outside global. Okay, the outside global is on the other side, the extreme end. Okay, which means if on the perspective of this side 2, this would be the outside. On the perspective of side 1, this would be the outside. So the outside is kind of reverse. So if I had to take these things here, I'll put here as inside local, inside global, outside local, outside global. Okay, so local is usually on the LAN side. Okay, so outside local, outside global. So we're on the perspective of traffic from here. Okay, so the web server provides its services to this other side. So on the perspective of this router, this is our inside global and this is our inside local IP addresses. Okay, so let's go in there. If we check the the operations, you want to see what the IP address on the outside local is at 12.12.12.2. Okay, forget about the port numbers. The port numbers don't change. So what you see here is that the outside local or global, neither the port nor the IP changes. What changes only on the local, the inside global and inside local. Okay, that's what changes, and that's only the IP address that changes here. So the next video we're going to do port address translation, whereby the IP remains the same but the port changes. Okay, the IP remains the same but the port changes. So that's going to be one-to-one port address translation. That's going to be the next video. Okay, so that's all for this video. If you like what you saw, if you learning something, please let me know how I'm doing. Subscribe to my channel and leave me a comment. Thanks.